Guys, I've imported my footage in my first name, last name, video 1819 folder. I created a folder called toy videos and I imported all of my footage here. Okay. The next thing that you want to do is label these. So I'm going to right click and say rename. And so you want to make sure that it's your first name, last name, and then underscore, and then what this was. And then I'm also going to put today's date. Okay, so you want to do that for all of your footage. This is going to be super helpful when you actually get to editing. So make sure you do that for all 10 of your videos, that you've imported all your footage here. It's in a meaningful folder name. And now we're ready to launch Premiere Pro. So you might want to launch that and then work on labeling all your videos. So after we have all of our videos in a folder, this folder is now your scratch disk. And once we've opened up Premiere Pro, it's going to ask me, do I want to make a new project? Okay, so yes, I want to make a new project. And so for the name of this one, I'm going to do my first name, last name, underscore. And this one was called Toy Videos, underscore, and then today's date. Okay, this is very important. Next, it's going to ask, where is your scratch disk? Okay, that is the folder that has all your footage. So notice that automatically it's going to be set to somebody else's folder or something else. You need to browse in your computer for where your footage is. So where it says location, I'm going to go to browse, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and then I'm going to look for my first name, last name, video folder. And then I'm going to look for the folder that has the video for this project. So I'm choosing, this is my scratch disk for this project. This is where all my videos are. If you decide to add music or still images or any kind of audio files, you need to put that in the scratch disk. So I'm choosing. Okay, now I've named my project, and I've also told it what the scratch disk is. Where is the folder with all of my footage? Very important. We're now linking that folder of footage to my project file. And then I'm going to hit OK. We don't need to worry about any of this stuff. Okay, next, I want to import all of my footage. Okay, so make sure that you're in the project window. Notice that you might accidentally be selected on something else. You want to make sure you're selecting the project, and you're going to import your footage. So to do that, I'm just going to double click my project panel here, and I'm going to pick my toy videos. Notice that it was already linked, so it already knows where it's supposed to be, and I'm going to import all of that footage. Okay, so I got all this footage off of the Canon 70D. So notice that it's a .mov file, that the frame rate captured at 30 frames per second, and with all the compression and all that stuff, it plays back at 29.97 frame rates. So it's giving me a lot of information about the actual footage, the duration. So that's all that information. It's telling me the resolution of that, so it's 1080p, and it's also telling me the audio information of that. Okay, with knowing that, all right, I have all my footage in here. I now have to create a sequence. Notice, this is very important. Some people just start editing, they don't make a sequence, and they have to start all over again. It's saying that there's no sequence, so we need to make a sequence. So I'm going to go up to File, New, and I'm going to create a sequence. So you always make a project, and you're only going to have one project open, but you can have as many sequences as you want. For example, when I was making my videos for you guys about each of the cameras, I made a new sequence for the NX Cam, and I made a sequence for the HDR. So I made a different sequence for each one. You can have as many sequences as you want, but you can only have one project open. So I'm going to pick sequence, and then holy heck, I get all of these, like, oh, what do I do? Which one do I go with? Like, do I, which camera do I have? So they actually have some sequence settings already set for depending on the kind of camera you have. Did you use an iPod? Also, the kind of quality, what kind of frame rate. Don't worry about this for right now. You used to have to. But I'm just gonna just pick anything. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna say I know that I uh, captured a high quality 1080p at 30 frames per second. We just saw that over here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and select that one. It doesn't really matter at this point um, what it is. So I'm just gonna pick this one, and before I do that, I also need to do it again. I need to go to, I need to name this again, my first and last name, underscore the name of the project, underscore the date, and then hit OK. Notice now that I have a sequence. Also notice in my project panel I have that icon. All right, so now I'm ready to start editing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click my footage, and that's going to bring it up into the source preview. All right, and now I can play it. So that's the first thing, is like watching your footage. Okay, deciding if you're going to even use it in there. Oh geez, they didn't use a tripod. Come on, kids. So let's pretend I am actually going to use this. What I'm going to do is, first you might want to make a marker while you're watching it. So you could just hit this to make a marker. Or remember that M on your keyboard is the shortcut to making a marker. So this is while you're just watching it. I usually make markers, just kind of like it's kind of like when you're playing with it, you're just making special notes of places. So I'm not really editing it, I'm just making markers at this point. Okay. Next, I need to create the in and the out point. Okay. So this is, you could do I on your keyboard, or you can hit the mark in point, saying that I want it to start here, and then I want the footage to go to my next marker. And you could do O on your keyboard, or you can say mark out for out point. And so the whole footage is, it's really there, the data is there, but I only want for the sequence to actually have that part of this entire movie in there. If you just wanted to bring over video, you can hit the drag video and drag over. If you just wanted the audio from footage, you could click that. If you want the video and the audio, you're just going to select the preview up here, click and drag onto your timeline. And this is why we didn't have to worry about settings, sequence settings. It says this clip does not match the sequence setting. So I picked a 1080p by 30, but something didn't match. So either the frame rate didn't match, or the resolution didn't match, or the audio did not match. And it's going to ask you, do you want to keep existing, or do you want to change the sequence settings to match the clip settings? Yes, I do. I picked the wrong one, so I want Premiere Pro to acknowledge this and change it for me. So that's what's really great about Premiere Pro. It used to not do that. It now senses what the frame rate was, what the resolution is, what the audio rate is, and all that stuff. It knows that now. So I'm going to hit change sequence settings, and that's perfect. Now I know that my clip matches my sequence settings. So now my footage is in here, and I just moved it over. If you're having a hard time like looking at it and dragging it where you want to, you can hit the plus button on your keyboard, and that kind of lets you zoom in on your footage. You can still see that it's the same rate, but depending on, notice that we get a different preview of what it looks like. So the plus to kind of zoom in on your footage, and you can see that it's only playing that one portion from the in and out point. All right, if you need to edit that one again, I just need to double click it, and we can see that this is that part of that. But notice that it's part of a bigger one. So it's showing me this. You can still change the in and out points if you want to of this by double clicking and bringing it up into your source. All right, so you're going to do that for each one. You're going to set your in and out point. You're going to watch it, make markers. I'm going to make a marker. Maybe I want it to be here. I want it to end here. Kind of watch it, and I make my markers while I'm watching it. And then I come back and I make my in point and my out point. Okay, and then I click and drag it to my timeline. So you're going to do that for all 10 of your videos. You're going to add all of your videos edited. So we have your Elevate, your Zolly. You should have 2 shots from each of the stations. Okay. When I'm done and I have all 10 shots here, they're edited. I've made my in and out points for each shot. I'm now going to export this video. Okay. I need to select the sequence. I want to export the sequence, all 10 of my shots in here, not just one. So this is the other problem, is that some people have one selected and then they go to File, Export Video. You have to make sure that the sequence is selected. The sequence contains all 10 shots. All right, so I'm selecting my sequence and then going to File, Export Media, and I'm going to ask that your format is going to be MPEG-2. Notice it does say, do you want to export it, match the sequence that you actually filmed at? We're going to actually compress it, and we're going to have it at a different, encode it in a different format file, different container for the president. You know, what do you want your rice as, on what plate? So we're going to pick MPEG-2. The output name, because you already named it, it should be here. But if you miss that part, you can go to pick the file, and it should be your first name, last name, underscore, the name of the project, underscore, the date. And then you also want to say, well, where am I exporting it to? I'm going to export it to my scratch disk. Say save. Make sure that you're exporting the video and the audio. Coming down here, I always like to have use maximum render quality when I'm exporting. If all those things are set up, you can now hit export. And now this video file is ready for you to send to me in Google Files. Let's look at your folder and your toy video scratch disk. And in here now I have a .mpg, that's the MPEG-2 file. Do not ever send me your Premiere profile. If you send this to me, I can open it and it's going to be empty. Okay? Remember, you always have to compress and encode and render a video before you actually share it, so somebody can watch it on a player. Also, remember, you always have to name it correctly, because I get a whole folder of all of these things. I need to know whose file it is, what project I'm looking at, and the date is just always helpful so that you know when it was created, when was the last video. You might actually export it on a new day, or you might edit it on a new day. You always want the newest file, right? Okay, so this is the file that you are going to upload to Google Classroom as your summative. This is what I want. I don't ever want your Premiere profile. I always need that exported file.